Hey viewers, my name's Cara. It is December 1st when I'm recording this. Hopefully it'll be up today, possibly tomorrow, depending on how things go. But it's December of 2022, and this is the time of year when people always start sharing their Spotify Wrapped information about what music they were listening to, or podcasts, or whatever, but mostly what music they were listening to on Spotify. This is not a sponsor. I actually don't use Spotify. Don't have it. Don't have the app. Don't use it. We do use it at the museum for the playlists of things that we listen to at work. So that is most of the music that is entering my headspace throughout my weeks is the museum playlist stuff, which is a lot of different things. There's some pagan stuff on there, but it's a lot of different stuff. It's mostly stuff that Steven knows and has added to the playlist. So I've gotten to know a lot of music that way. But there are a lot of songs from those playlists that, like, I could sing along with them. I know every word. I do not know who the artist is or what the song is called because I don't always get over there to check what it is. But other than that, Spotify is not a thing in my life. But everybody's sharing their Wrapped info. And so I thought I would do a video to share with you what I actually do listen to and how, and just do it that way. So, for the most part, other than being at work and listening to the playlists that are just going on there, I am a CD person. I asked for a CD player boombox situation a couple years ago for my birthday because I really missed having that. I have a pretty big CD collection, not only because I had a fair number of CDs myself throughout the years, but also because, some of you may know, my mom, ever since I was quite young, like a preteen, my mom was and still is a karaoke hostess and DJ. And now she does the digital thing where it's all on a laptop and she can just pull it up and whatever. But at the time, it was physical CDs. And so when she transitioned away from using physical CDs in her shows, some of them also got added to my collection, depending on what I wanted. So I do listen to physical CDs a lot because I'm like, listen, I have them, I like them, I want to use them. So one of the categories I'm going to be showing you are the top 5 physical CDs that I tend to listen to the most from my personal collection. It wasn't that difficult to narrow it down to like the top 5 that I know I tend to reach for the most often when I'm listening to stuff around the house, which is also like not an everyday thing for me, but it's usually like if I'm doing other things, if I'm rearranging, if I'm cleaning, if I'm doing dishes, if I whatever, while I'm doing other stuff, basically. I also have a couple things from like what I tend to listen to on YouTube specifically, because I don't use Spotify, but sometimes there are playlists on YouTube that I'll go to, or just like the type of thing that I tend to look up and listen to on YouTube, or at least that I have this year in particular. I also use a couple of apps to check out books, ebooks, and audiobooks from my local public library system, or just from the general catalog on the app. And partway through this year, I remembered / realized that you can check out whole albums on like Hoopla. So I had a few albums throughout the year that I really wanted to listen to, and they were on Hoopla, so I listened to them that way. And there were actually only a total of 5 albums that I checked out that way, so that'll be really easy. I'm just going to share those with you. And then also I made a list of the individual songs that I listen to on the radio, because I listen to the radio on my way to and from work, and a lot of the time I'm listening to NPR, but sometimes I'm in the mood for music. So of the times that I'm listening to music in the car on my commute, I made a list of the top 4 songs that I get most excited about when they come on. I thought that would be a good way to do it because I don't necessarily know like how often did I listen to them because it's the radio. They're on all the time. So I chose the top 4 that I can just remember off the top of my head as being the things that I'm most excited about listening to and singing along with and turning them up when they come on. And then the 5th one in the individual song category is actually something that I listen to on YouTube. So it's not a radio one, but it's still part of the individual songs category. So let us begin with the physical CDs. This one, the first one's kind of cheaty because it's an album that also came with a sampler of some songs from the what is it called? The production company. Wow, I don't know why I can't think of the term right now. But anyway, from the record label, from Drive-Thru Records. So I tend to listen to this album and the sampler one after the other every time I listen to it. I'm not usually just listening to one or the other. So this is like technically 2 albums is why I'm saying it's kind of cheaty. But anyway, first one, Hello Goodbye, Zombies, Aliens, Vampires, Dinosaurs. And then it comes with a Drive-Thru Records sampler, and it has the names of what's on there right there. I've had this album forever. It's definitely not a new album. I didn't look up ahead of time when these came out, anything like that. That's not what this video is. I'm just sharing what it is that I actually listen to. And I feel like 80% of the time that I'm trying to listen to CDs when I'm around the house, this is one of the ones that I will reach for. I usually go through 3 or 4 albums kind of in one session. Like if I'm doing that day, that's what I'm doing for a while. Hello Goodbye, Zombies, Aliens, Vampires, Dinosaurs is definitely one of them. The other one that I feel like ever since I got this secondhand at the Exchange last year for my birthday, I feel like this one has become like almost as much as I grab this one, I'm very likely to listen to these top 2 in the same day, is Kesha, Animal. Yes. So for example, this is the album that has TikTok on it and blah, 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 and Dinosaur, Animal, obviously, title, Take It Off, Kiss and Tell, Party at a Rich Dude's House. Yeah, this album to me is like the stereotypical like glitz and glam party girl, party person nature of stereotypes of Leo sun signs, which I am. This is like hardcore Leo vibes to me. Like of that, the glitz and glam, let's have fun bit of Leo. That's Kesha's Animal to me. So there's that. Reaching all the way back into middle school and beyond, the next album that I'm most likely to reach for is GC's first album, GC, Good Charlotte, the GC album. I have their first 3 albums. I also have Young and the Hopeless, and that's actually what I listened to the other day, but I actually listen to GC more often than Young and the Hopeless, and I barely ever listen to Chronicles of Life and Death. So there's that, although I do own it. I own the Life version. I never got the Death version, but anyway. I'm not even going to do much of an intro for number 4. MySpace Records Volume 1. Yes, I know that some of you also own this album. This is where I first heard some of these bands, and I just love it. It's a really, yes, I'm this person. I don't have any of the other volumes of MySpace Records. I just have the first one. And there's only a couple songs on here that I don't really love to listen to. Like a lot of the time I will skip the Tila Tequila song just because it's mostly screaming. Not that I don't like songs that are mostly screaming some of the time. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day if I want to listen to that one. So I might skip that one. But other than that, I freaking love this album. AFI, Rabbits or Roadkill on Route 37 starts it off. And then we have Lunch for the Sky by Socratic is track number 3. There's some Click 5 on here. Say Anything, Fall Out Boy, Dashboard Confessional, hands down, classic. Awakening memories for many of you, I know, from this time period. Weezer, of course. There's some Hollywood Undead on here. All American Rejects. The Summer Obsession, Melt the Sugar. I had never heard them before this album. Plain White Tees, Take Me Away, same thing. Copeland, Pin Your Wings, and Jupiter Sunrise, Arthur Nix round out. I love this album. I listen to that a lot. And then honestly, trying to come up with a top 5, those 4 were easy. The 5th one was a toss-up because I feel like there are a handful of things that I'm 5th most likely to reach for, you know? So I had to kind of think of, like, overall, because I don't actually keep track of this. Like, how often did I actually grab this as opposed to something else? I'm sure that in other years, I've been more likely to grab one of my soundtracks. I have some movie and theater soundtracks that I love to listen to, but this year I didn't listen to a lot of those, so instead of having those represented in this, the 5th one I chose is one of the classics that I know I tend to listen to quite a bit. And there are a couple other albums that, like, again, depending on my mood, I might reach for, like, more of a country album instead. But for the 5th, I chose Vanessa Carlton, Harmonium. And I do also own Be Not Nobody and Heroes and Thieves. I love Vanessa Carlton. We share a birthday. But I am most likely to listen to Harmonium, which is the album that White Houses is on. And I don't know. I feel like other than 1,000 Miles, which is on Be Not Nobody, right? Yeah. Other than that, I feel like White Houses is the song that people are more likely to know from Vanessa, if you know anything other than 1,000 Miles. So White Houses, one of my other favorites by her. But so many of these, and even when I'm not actively listening to them, I'm singing them to myself a lot of the time just throughout my day-to-day life. So that's why I ended up with that one. I am noticing now that I'm losing even more of the natural light, so it is getting darker in here, so I might pause and turn on another light real quick. Okay, yikes. Little different. Anyway, so now for the rest of this, I don't have physical items to be holding up and showing you. So the rest of these I'm just gonna read out. I have a list here. I wrote it down on my whiteboard. So the next category is like stuff that I tend to listen to on YouTube. Hands down, the top thing, playlists, albums that I listen to, actually pretty much the only things on YouTube that I listen to in whole albums are the Reclaiming chants. There are several albums, get out of here, there's a bug. There are several albums that have been recorded by members of the Reclaiming Witchcraft tradition, which is my tradition, over the years, and they are compiled in YouTube and Spotify playlists. You can actually look it up on Spotify and you'll find it too if you do use that, but I listen to them on YouTube. Hands down, most likely music that I'm listening to through YouTube is Reclaiming chants. And then in general, this isn't specific albums because it's not always specific, but just the kind of stuff that I tend to look up on YouTube. The next giant category is basically like pagan folk stuff, S.J. Tucker, Kellyanna, and things like that. Specific albums that I remember listening to forever ago and I don't have or can't find in the moment, so I'll look it up online. Like I remember looking up Avalon, A Celtic Legend, earlier this year because I couldn't find my copy of it, and I listened to some Charming Disaster this year. Spells and Rituals, I think, is the name of their album that I listened to the most, because, I mean, hello, it's called Spells and Rituals, so of course that's the one I click first. And also Rhett McLaughlin from Good Mythical Morning, Rhett and Link, started putting out music as James and the Shame, and so every time one of those was released, I immediately listened to that on repeat. So I definitely listened to James and the Shame via YouTube this year. And then in general, oldies. I tend to use YouTube to look up, again, just like songs that I haven't thought of in a long time that like come up in conversation, or they come up in day-to-day life, or actually as part of my practice, like ancestor stuff, things that my grandfather used to sing, or stuff that I know my mom sang when we were kids, things like that. So that's mostly what I was looking up on YouTube this year to listen to. Reclaiming stuff, pagan stuff, always, oldies, and then like James and the Shame. So there's that. Now, stuff that I checked out from the library using Hoopla. There were only 5 albums that I even did this with. 3 of them were Lizzo. And this is what made me think of it in the first place, because I wanted to listen to Lizzo's albums, and I realized that instead of, for example, looking it up on YouTube, I could check out the album through the library. So I did. So Lizzo, 3 albums: Special, Coconut Oil, and 'Cause I Love You. Then the 4th and 5th are Lady Gaga, The Fame Monster, and Post Malone's 12 Carat Toothache. I do want to listen to the rest of Post's albums, but I was primarily listening to 12 Carat Toothache this year. Speaking of which, moving into mostly radio, but then one song that I looked up on YouTube to listen to repeatedly, over and over, constantly. Moving into the individual songs, the number one song that I get excited about when it comes up on the radio is I Like You, a Happier Song by Post Malone featuring Doja Cat. I love that song. I do not know all of the words yet. I mean, I know them, but I don't have them completely memorized yet. But I love that song. It makes me so happy when it comes on. I mean, it's literally subtitled A Happier Song. That is on 12 Carat Toothache. And I love so many of the songs on that album, but I don't hear them as much. Like, the one I mainly hear on the radio is I Like You, and I like it. Number 2 song that I get excited about when it comes on the radio is That's What I Want by Lil Nas X. Of course, I also like the other Lil Nas X songs that come up on the radio, but the one that I tend to be really enjoying lately and for, in recent months, it's been playing more often, I feel like, than some of the others, is That's What I Want. This one's been on the radio for quite a while, so it doesn't come on as often, but when it does, I get pumped about it. Number 3 is Levitating by Dua Lipa. I love that song. It's so happy. Also, like the music video, good vibes, just love it. And then the 4th one that I listen to on the radio is Lizzo. And I feel the need to mention that I do really enjoy About Damn Time, and that pops up on the radio a lot. So I almost made that the 4th one, but then I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, but like, I do love that song. Don't get me wrong. I do get excited when that song comes on. Anything Lizzo, I'm like, okay, cool. But more recently, what I'm hearing more often and what I enjoy belting in the car even more so is actually To Be Loved, Am I Ready by Lizzo. So I feel like I had to mention About Damn Time, honorable mention, but actually like the 4th most exciting song for me that I hear on the radio a lot recently is To Be Loved, Am I Ready to Be Loved by Lizzo. And the 5th individual song that I am sure I listened to the most this year, because I listened to it on repeat for weeks, is actually a song by a YouTuber. You might know her from the early years of YouTube as Mika Kitty. Tessa Violet is still out there making incredible music, and I always loved her like YouTube music, like the silly sort of like comedic music goodness that she would create, and especially some of the songs that she did as collaborations with Nicola Foti, Soundly Awake. Love them, still listen to them. So when I sort of decided to pop back over and see what's Tessa Violet up to, I discovered Yes Mom. Yes Mom had just been released, and that is the other thing, like, Kesha to me is super like Leo party vibes. The song Yes Mom by Tessa Violet is also that same vibe for me. Like that I love myself and I'm a badass, and naming that and loving myself is ultimately going to help me have a better day, feel more confident. So yeah, it's like badass self-love, love vibes, love vibes. Yes Mom, my Tessa Violet, but I listen to that on YouTube. It's not a radio thing. Oh, I'm also just now remembering that like some other ones that I really enjoy when they come on the radio, but they were not the first things that came to my mind when I was putting this list together. Therefore, they're not top 5/4. They would be like the next couple. But yeah. So, I mean, I can show you my list in my handwriting if you just want to see it again. It's kind of messy, but I already showed you the CDs, museum playlists, stuff I look up on YouTube, James and the Shame, library albums, 3 Lizzo albums, Lady Gaga, Post Malone, radio, songs, and this one I listen to on YouTube. Check them out. So yeah, and you know, Spotify Wrapped also usually breaks down like, here's what your top genres were, and here's this, that, and the other. I don't even know. That's the thing. When people ask me, like, what kind of music do you listen to? I listen to a lot of things. I narrowed this down to, like, the top whatever, but like I said, I also listen to a lot of movie and theatrical soundtracks, so there would definitely be soundtrack would be a big one on there, especially if I'm practicing songs, like songs that I used to use for audition songs. I'm not auditioning for anything these days, but every so often I'm like, I need to brush up on that song, or like, I really want to sing that and I don't remember all of it, so I'll just like on repeat be listening to a specific song that I'm trying to get better at singing or remembering the lyrics or whatever. So there would definitely be soundtrack for days. A lot of pagan folk, medieval folk, and folk country type thing. Little bit of pop. I mean, no, a lot of pop. I meant like a little bit of like pop country as opposed to like older country folk type stuff. But it depends on what it is. It depends on the artist. And other than that, I don't know what genres are. Like some of my friends have been posting their Spotify Wrapped, and I'm like, what even is that genre? And then I look it up and I'm like, oh yeah, I listened to that and I like that too, but I didn't know that was even the name of a thing, right? So like, I like a lot of things. The thing is, I like most music. I like most things that I've heard, but I'm also not usually spending a lot of time on that, which is why like I never bothered to get Spotify, because I don't really need it for the amount of time that I spend listening to music. I have my CDs, or I have the radio to and from work, or I have YouTube when I just want to look something up really quick. So I don't know. You tell me what the genres are. I know like alt rock is probably in there, pop punk definitely in there. Yeah, lots of things. So that's my version of just kind of letting you in on what the heck music I listen to when I do listen to music. When I'm not listening to it, I'm usually just singing it to myself throughout my literal just everyday existence. So there's that. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching and or listening to this video. I will see you next time, and until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, happy December, and goodbye. Guess I should leave room for the end screen because I'm not going to edit this.